Last
I never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of it.
And this poem is called One Wish. I wish I was an elephant, cause it would make me laugh. To use my nose like a rubber hose to rinse off in the bath. I wish I was a chameleon, chameleons are best. I'd change my color and life would be fuller, for change is as good as rest. I wish I was a hippo's life seems good. They don't go to school, but keep nice and cool, playing around in the mud. I wish I was a dolphin would be my wish. Leaping and splashing, I'd be very dashing and swim along with the fish. I wish I was an ostrich would be grand. But if I got scared, would I be prepared to bury my head in the sand? I wish I had more wishes, but now my game is through. I'm happy to be, quite simply me, enjoying a day at the zoo. I like that one, that was a good one.
I love that one.
I'm gonna come closer. I'm losing my voice. Okay. What did you guys think of that one, the poem? Did you like that one? I love the little poems in here. This one is called Madame Monocle's Magic Machine. Ooh. It was the king's birthday, and Quentin the royal bard had spent days preparing a birthday poem of immense length for his royal highness. He had searched the royal library for the perfect rhyme, for the right adjective, for the words that were guaranteed to bring his majesty pleasure. At last the ink was dry, and Quentin was ready to read the poem to the king. The court assembled, the king took his place upon his throne, and Quentin cleared his throat and began. To you, dear majesty, on the auspicious occasion of your birthday. He began to read his verse in a loud and pompous voice. At first the king looked attentive. Then he noticed that Quentin was holding a great many sheets of paper, and was still only on page 1. Oh dear, thought the king. I wish I hadn't eaten so much. I'm feeling rather sleepy. His eyelids drooped. My king so fair, with lustrous hair, Quentin was saying. Soon the king was asleep and snoring gently. The queen was just wondering whether to wake her husband, and when there was a commotion outside the throne room, and in burst an old woman. She dragged a brightly painted, clattering machine behind her and made greasy black tire marks on the marble floor as she pushed her way through the throng towards the royal throne. Wake up, Reggie, hissed the queen, poking the king in the ribs with a long red fingernail. You must do something. What? I'll teach that two-headed Martian a lesson, shouted the king, who was dreaming that he'd been abducted by aliens. He sat bolt upright and stared at the old woman. Has anybody ever dreamed that they've been abducted by aliens before?
No.
I have. No? I'm the only one?
The woman was just saying it had.
Yeah. Okay, so he sat bolt upright and stared at the old woman. Who? He began. How dare? Started Quentin, but the old lady interrupted them both. I am Madame Monocle, she announced, and this is my magic recycling machine. Feed it your unwanted bits and pieces, your odds and ends, and watch them become transformed into new, fabulous, and truly useful items before your very eyes. She did a little pirouette before the king and ended with a curtsy. The king was just about to have Madame Monocle and her filthy machine thrown out when he remembered how much Quentin's poem had bored him. This might be much more interesting. Does anybody know what he's gonna do with Quentin's poem and this machine?
No.
Guess we'll find out. The king didn't believe Madame Monocle for a minute, but he thought it would be amusing to see what happened next. Very well, he said. What can your machine do? What do you say we begin with a royal sock? said Madame Monocle, reaching down to unbuckle the king's shoe. The court froze. What would the king do? Touching the royal foot was unthinkable. To everyone's utter amazement, the king sat quite meekly while Madame Monocle removed his sock, exposing 5 pink toes for all the world to see. The court gasped as the old woman reached up and lifted a lid on top of the machine. In went the sock, and up went a plume of purple smoke before she slammed the lid down again. Madame Monocle stood smiling sweetly at the machine, or as the machine began to make the most fearsome and embarrassing noises. It shook and steamed and gurgled and belched until finally out of a chute at one side slid a beautiful woolen scarf. So she turned the sock into a scarf. And here is a picture of Madame Monocle
Granny,
with the sock.
Granny,
And there's the king without a sock on.
Ooh.
King without a sock, Madame Monocle holding his sock.
What is that?
The king.
Oh,
Yeah.
the king.
There he
Oh,
is.
yeah. The king of
And Madame Monocle, and that's her big old machine.
sewing machine.
Her machine that turns things into other things. I don't remember how she explained it. The king looked astonished as Madame Monocle stepped forward and arranged the scarf around his neck. Oh, it's her recycling machine. Then he smiled and said, "Who else has something to recycle?" A courtier passed the old lady a newspaper. She stuffed it into the machine, and a few moments later out shot an elegant wooden candlestick. The court cheered. Everyone was fascinated by the extraordinary machine as more objects were fed into it. Everyone, that is, except for one person. In all the excitement, nobody noticed the look of fury on Quentin's face. "My day has been ruined," he thought angrily. "They didn't listen to the end of my wonderful poem. I'll make them regret it." He slipped around the back of the machine and twiddled a few knobs. Nobody noticed. They were too busy watching to see what would come out next. Madame Monocle had just thrown a chicken bone into the machine. All eyes were on the chute. Suddenly there was a dreadful cackling noise, and out of the chute shot an old crone on a broomstick. She had a stone in her fist, which she hurled straight at the king. He ducked as the stone smashed into his crown. Before anyone could stop her, the crone had there's an error in there. The crone had escaped out the window. "Stop the machine!" screamed the queen, but it was too late. Madame Monocle had already fed her gold ring into the machine. The contraption hissed and then began spitting out pieces of knotted old string. There was a stunned silence. "I don't know what could have happened. It's very strange," said Madame Monocle. The king stood up, purple-faced with rage. "You've ruined my birthday," he yelled. "Take her away, guards." Okay, so here is a picture of the king.
Take her away.
And there's the rock being thrown at his crown. Right in the head. Everybody see?
Why did they take her away?
Well, because her machine started doing crazy things. Made a witch on a broom who threw a rock at his head, and then it turned the queen's gold ring into string. So now he's like, okay, this machine isn't very cool anymore, because at first it was doing pretty cool things, so. "Wait!" shouted the queen. "I know your game," she continued, pointing her finger at Quentin, who was smirking in the corner. "Bone, crone, stone, ring, string? Obviously, our precious court poet has turned the machine into a ridiculous rhymer." "Bring him here," commanded the king. The guards, who had Madame Monocle in a tight grip, dropped their hold. They surrounded Quentin and dragged him in front of the king. Well, demanded the king. At first, Quentin denied everything, but at last he had to admit that he had tampered with the machine. He told the king how hurt he was that no one had wanted to listen to his poem. The king looked thoughtful. He whispered something to the queen, who thought for a moment and then nodded. Finally, he said to Quentin, "Although you have greatly displeased us, nevertheless, the queen and I are forced to admire your skill at producing rhymes out of this machine. As punishment, you will feed it your own work and we'll see what comes out." Reluctantly, Quentin fed sheet after sheet after sheet of his poem into the machine. After much whirring, down the chute came a scrap of paper with a few lines of writing on it. "Well," said the king. "It's not quite what I would have liked," said Quentin hesitantly. "Let's hear it anyways," retorted the king. Quentin arched his eyebrows and read. So this is Quentin's new poem from his old one. "There once was a young king named Reggie who liked cakes more than meat and 2 veggies. Sorry guys, reading always makes me tired. Okay, I'm gonna start his poem over. There once was a young king named Reggie who liked cakes more than meat and 2 veggies. He declared, 'It's a fluke. That green makes me puke, and chops make me nervous and edgy.'
Edgy.
The king looked surprised. Then he burst out laughing. And so did the entire court. 'Excellent,' he cried. 'I love it. But speaking of cakes, where's my birthday cake?' There was an awkward silence in court. Then Madame Monocle stepped forward. 'Perhaps I can help,' she says, as she fed a box of matches into the machine. Presto! Out came a chocolate cake with candles blazing on it. 'My best birthday ever!' beamed the king as he blew out his candles. Oh, he's happy. Okay, so I have one more poem here, and then maybe we can go back in the book and I'll find an old story that we've read before and read one of those, and then next week we'll find a new book, okay?
I got a new book at home.
You do? Maybe we can talk about that one after and see what it is.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out to read for next week. Okay, so here's the poem, and then we'll pick an old, one of the older stories to reread. And then we'll be done with this book, okay? And on to the next book. This poem is called There Was an Old Woman.
A woman who lives in their shoe.
A woman who lived in a shoe. No. That's a nice story or poem. There was an old woman who lived on our street. You wouldn't believe all the things she could eat. For breakfast each morning, a full 3-course meal of nuts and bolts served in a bicycle wheel. She always was careful not to miss lunch. On brooms, mops, and buckets, she'd nibble and crunch. Trumpets and trombones were her favorite dinner, but though always eating, she kept getting thinner. At midnight, she'd snack on some bees in their hives, all swiftly washed down with the fork, spoons, and knives. What would finish her off? No one could have known, for the nutty old woman choked on a fishbone. And look at her. Look at her mouth. She's literally just fit everything into her mouth.
Wow.
Everything that she just talked about eating, all of it.
Oh, that's crazy.
You know.
And I
Good.
Craziness. What?
That's a good view.
No, it doesn't.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, it does.
Let's see. Okay, our last story of Rabadi. Are you ready? What do we do? Clumsy Fred Denture Adventure, My Funny Family, or Silly Jill? Okay, Silly Jill, Clumsy Fred, or A Ship Full of Fun? Who says Silly Jill? Hands up. Allie says Silly Jill. Okay, what about Clumsy Fred? Anybody? Jeremy says, oh, Jeremy and John say Clumsy Fred. What about A Ship Full of Fun?
Oh. Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Okay, we've got a few people for A Ship Full of Fun. Mike as well. So I think we're gonna do, oh, Mel as well. So I think we're gonna do A Ship Full of Fun.
yay.
Let's find that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the washroom together.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's find A Ship Full of Fun.
Should be in the back somewhere there. That's the one I started reading.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't mind hearing it again.
King Stinky. He's a stinky king.
I'm gonna run past Taylor and then just gonna start watching.
A ship full of fun. Who's ready for the story? Ah! What was that? John, did you see that? What was that? Weird. What was that? Okay, is everybody ready?
John's laughing about that. What Sean did.
I'm gonna be ready for nap class after this. Just kidding. Okay. A ship full of fun. Ship. Shipful. But shipful is one word. Shipful. It was a wild, stormy night. Windows rattled and garbage can lids clattered down the narrow streets. Poppy sat wide awake in her bed, listening to the wind howling and the crashing waves. My goodness. She wondered about the poor seagulls. Where would they go on a night like this? Suddenly, her room was filled with bright orange light. A flare! Something was happening at sea! Poppy woke her father and they rushed down to the beach, pulling on their coats. People were appearing from everywhere, and there was an air of anticipation as they all gathered on the beach. Poppy had a feeling it would be an eventful night. Look at, there's Poppy and her dad and all the other people gathering on the beach because they see a light shooting across the sky. And Poppy thinks it's a flare.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's Poppy and everybody, and there's the light. Do you guys have any ideas what this might be? What does it look like to you? Who thinks it's gonna be a flare? John thinks it's gonna be a flare. Allie? Who else? Anybody here?
I think it's gonna be a flare.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have any guesses of what else it could be if you don't think it's gonna be a flare?
Ooh,
What else could shoot through the sky?
I don't know.
Shooting star maybe?
What?
Could be a shooting star. Comets? Fireworks? Comets? Who knows?
But this is
I
at
know,
night.
I know. Taylor.
Or an airplane?
I think it's at nighttime.
Could it be Mars?
Mars. We've got a lot of guesses here. I guess we'll see. Good guesses, everybody. Now, let's figure out what it could be. I am excited.
I'm
Okay.
ready too.
Out of the raging ocean, Captain Thomas clung to the bow of his lurking ship and shot another flare into the sky. As it lit up the stormy sky, he could see in the orange glow the townspeople gathered on the beach. He was relieved to see the lifeboat being hauled into the crashing waves. He was all alone on his stricken ship, and it was heading for the rocks. But the lifeboat was coming, bobbing steadfastly towards him. So it was a flare. So this captain is on the water, stuck out there, and he needs to get to the shore, but it's storming and raining, and So he went under for a second and came up spluttering and coughing. Then strong hands grabbed him and stronger arms pulled him into the boat. Thank you, he gasped. The boat turned and took him to the shore. There was a horrible crunching sound as his ship hit the rocks. Then it rolled onto its side. In the morning, Poppy went down to the beach. To look at the ship. The sea was calm now, but the ship was wrecked. It was stuck on the rocks, and there was a gaping hole in its side. Captain Thomas was there with the flotilla of little boats, unloading his cargo. When the wooden cases were safely on the beach, everyone gathered around to see what they contained. It was a very unusual cargo. Giant metal springs, large plastic fish, oversized pants, and hundreds of red ping pong balls. I'll never get another ship now, sobbed Captain Thomas. This is the third one I've lost. He stood on one of the cases and addressed the townspeople. Thank you for saving my life, he said. As a small token of my gratitude, I'd like you to keep this cargo. Cautiously, uncertainly, the townspeople unloaded the cases and walked home with armfuls of springs, fish, pants, and little red balls. They weren't sure what they were going to do with them, but it was very generous of the captain nonetheless. That night, Poppy cut a hole in one of the little red balls and stuck it on her nose. What do you think? She asked her father. It looks silly, he said. A week passed, and then, one morning, everyone woke to hear someone shouting and knocking on the doors, trying to rouse them. It was Captain Thomas, and he looked very agitated. Customs officers are coming, he told them all. They think you've stolen my cargo. But you gave it to us, said someone. I know, said the captain. But I shouldn't have, and now you may get into trouble. What should we do? Asked everyone. Unpack everything, said the captain, and pretend it belonged to you already. But what are we going to do with a load of great big springs and plastic fish? Asked Poppy's father. I'm sure you'll think of something, said the worried captain. The following day, just as the captain had warned, two stern-looking men in dark suits arrived. They parked their cars in the main square and looked around suspiciously. Here they are, looking around suspiciously.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yep. Dun dun dun. Oh, look, there's the captain in the back. He's hiding. I don't know if you guys can see him. You see him?
Yep.
Poking out around the building, just kind of hiding.
Oh, yeah.
So, here we are, said the taller of the two men. Pomberton, a small town that is noted for its fishing industry and for its long history of smuggling. What are we looking for? Asked the smaller man. I have absolutely no idea, said the first. The call didn't say, but whatever the cargo is, there'll be lots of it and it's probably stashed away in big boxes somewhere. Let's have a look around. The two men in dark suits walked on down the street. It was a hot, sunny day. Two small children with red ping pong balls on their noses ran past. One of the men laughed. Kids, eh? They went into a store. The storekeeper also had a red ball on his nose, and when he walked, his feet made a peculiar slapping sound. Good morning, he said, trying to sound natural, although his red nose made it hard to breathe. I guess it was like, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, instead of good morning.
Wow.
He said, trying to sound natural, although his red nose made it hard to breathe. Can I help you, gentlemen? Customs officers, said the tall man, waving his badge in the man's face. We'd like to have a look around if you don't mind. Help yourself, said the storekeeper. Just then, an old woman, also wearing a red ball on her nose and a pair of enormous pants, came into the shop. She bought a bag of apples, a bunch of bananas, and a box of laundry detergent, and put them inside her pants before walking out again. The two men looked at each other and raised their eyebrows. As they walked into the storeroom, the back of the store, one of them glanced down at the storekeeper's feet. Does anybody know what he was wearing on his feet?
On his feet?
Yeah, what was in the box? There's the ping pong balls,
Yes?
there's the giant pants,
How giant is it?
big pants. Do you remember what else was in there?
Wait, red balls? Oh, the fake fish?
Yep, you got it. So next, it says, he looked down at the storekeeper's feet. He was wearing 2 large plastic fish. So he was wearing them on his feet.
I thought he might wear clown shoes.
Nope, plastic fish on his feet. It was a random box of things. Unusual shoes, said the short man. Oh, very comfortable, said the storekeeper. Just right for this hog, Weber. The customs officer found nothing suspicious in the store and continued down the street. Everyone they passed wore the same red balls on their noses and slapped along with plastic fish on their feet. Shoppers came out and went with their purchases, stuffed into their extraordinarily large pants. The tall man couldn't hold back his curiosity any longer. He stopped Poppy's father and asked him why everyone was wearing red balls on their noses. Is it for charity, he asked. Oh no, said Poppy's father, removing his nose to speak. It's the smell of the fish. Can't stand it. None of us can. I can't smell any fish, said the tall man. Really? Said Poppy's father. You'd better get your nose checked by the doctor. The tall man sniffed and looked worried. After searching the stores, the customs officers began a house-to-house search. They started with Poppy's house, where Poppy was outside in the yard picking apples. She wore a red ball on her nose, of course, and a big baggy pair of pants. But she also had a giant spring attached to her feet, and she was using this to bounce up to the branches of the apple tree. So you guys remember that was the other thing in
Oh, right.
the cargo was the springs.
Right. Right, I mean.
The two men in dark suits looked at each other and, scratching their heads, walked off. They continued their search for the stolen cargo. In one house, they found a man bouncing up to the ceiling so that he could change a light bulb. Outside, a woman was cleaning the windows in the same way, wiping a patch as she reached to the top of her bounce, then dipping her cloth in the bucket on the ground before bouncing up again. So here's pictures of everybody. So you have, look, she's got her apples in her giant pants while she's on a spring, and the woman with her cloth because she's cleaning. So you see them all in their big springs and their giant pants. Jeremy, you see that?
That's funny. Yeah, they are giant pants.
Yeah, it's funny, right?
Giant nose too.
A giant nose.
A real giant nose.
Okay. And everywhere they went, they heard the slap, slap, slap of people walking along with their fish footwear. The customs officers searched every house and every store in town, but there was no sign of stolen goods. No crates or boxes jammed into closets or under beds. Nothing. When it was time to leave, the shorter man stopped to do some shopping. He came out with a red ball and a pair of plastic fish size 10. Very reasonable price, these fish shoes, he said. The taller man said as they climbed back into their car. So, no sign of contraband. They seem like pleasant people here in Palmerton. Hardworking and honest, I'd say. Completely mad, of course, but hardworking and honest just the same. Oh, I don't know about that, said the shorter man through his red nose. These fish shoes are very comfortable. And that's how it ends. That was a fun one. Me too. So we have one more little poem that I'll read quick, and then I'll pass you over to Grace, okay? So this is a poem called Cooking Up a Storm.
Ooh.
And there is a picture of a little boy with a giant pot, and he's got a bunch of eyeballs. So he's putting eyeballs in a cauldron. Cauldron is like a giant pot that witches use to
I'm
make
getting one of those.
potions and other crazy stuff.
Why
So
did
he's
he
got
have
a
eyeballs?
giant cauldron. I don't know. I wonder whose eyeballs those are.
Probably the Wicked Witch.
Looks like he's got a lot of them. Okay. Cooking up a storm. I'm a wizard in the kitchen, or so my friends all say. Just wait till they discover what I'm cooking up today. I've got my biggest cauldron heating up on the fire, and I've gathered the ingredients this fine spell will require. First, a handful of cat whiskers and the tails from 3 young pups. A big ladle full of eyeballs and froggy slime, 2 cups. And a ton of giant fireworks, a bunch of old tin cans, a pair of cymbals, a big bass drum, all stirred with a frying pan. Bangs and crashes shake the windows, it's raining cats and dogs. Outside the storm is stirring up a nasty shower of frogs. For although it may be August, so sunny, bright, and warm, you'd better run for cover. I've cooked up the perfect storm. Oh, you can see it's actually raining cats and dogs there in the background. See? Raining cats and dogs. Okay. Those stories were fun, guys. I'm going to pass you back over to Grace. Do you guys have any ideas for books that you want to do next week for novel study or storytelling? Just let me know. Or let us know.
We don't come to program next week. It's closed.
So I'm going to pass you guys over now, okay?
Next week we don't come in.
Bye, guys.
The holiday, we don't come in.